All right. Yeah. Welcome, friends, to the present moment. I am Bhante Varrapanyo, and the present moment is real. Meditation is real. Buddhism is real. Being a monk is real. And I'm here to share about that experience with y'all. This is an event hosted in the Yam Fam community, which is a spiritualist aligned, non dual aligned um, space, and I am fortunate enough to be here as a invited guest of the owner and the main facilitator of the community to answer questions, to give advice, to share a little bit about my life experience. So I think I would like to begin by introducing myself and kind of letting you all know how I've gotten to where I am now and where I am now. And also to invite a sense of authenticity, a sense of vulnerability, a sense of natural just being here for everyone involved to bring up that energy, that mindset. I got started on my spiritual journey, really got started on my spiritual journey after I graduated high school. And I came from a background, a family experience, a broken family, where there was a lot of suffering, and I was not skillful to take care of myself mentally or emotionally or psychologically. So after high school ended, basically the bottom fell out from under me. I didn't know what to do. I didn't have good relationships with my family members or with friends, right? With people in my community. I was really lost. And that led me to spiraling into depression and anxiety and like these really deep negative mental states, negative mental situations that I found myself in. So, my inspiration from that, for whatever reason, was to leave, was to go out, right? Was to travel, was to try and go on my own in some sense. And I did that. Went down to Florida, went to upstate New York, and by leaving behind my home and leaving behind my life, not a life that was very pleasant, but leaving it behind and going out with this positive attitude, I started to come across people who knew a little bit more than I did. I was 18, 19 years old. I didn't know anything. So through that natural traveling and meeting people, I learned about Eckhart Tolle, Alan Watts, spirituality. I learned about this idea of meditation and kind of not just a positive mindset, but a spiritual mindset, a reality mindset. And before I traveled, before I came across these people, I didn't know about that. And it's interesting looking back. Before I touched this stuff, I came across this stuff, but I didn't have any, there wasn't any like no such thing as reality. There was no such thing as the truth or wisdom. These things didn't mean anything. It just wasn't there. There was like God or Jesus, but it didn't have a connection to like reality, the nature of reality or something. If you're having any issues with the live stream, please join through YouTube. So if you go to the news channel or the Yamcast chat channel here in the Discord, you'll see a link to the YouTube, and you can watch and follow along there. Okay, that will be the good quality way to join. Okay, and that's in the news channel. There's a link to that YouTube. So from traveling, I was able to get some touching points for the truth and for spirituality and for wisdom and compassion. And I start to develop an understanding of these things, a relationship with these things. But for maybe 2 years after contacting spirituality and meditation, I would have like very high positive spiritual experiences. Like I would have high mental experiences and all that by staying at a Native American church ranch, doing peyote meetings, being in spiritual circles, having experiences with psychedelics and things like that. I would have very high vibrational, positive spiritual experiences. But then I would find myself in this place of instability and of very negative, deep spiritual experiences with mental suffering and instability of my psychology, my emotions, my mental health, my social health, everything. So eventually, after 2 years, 3 years or so of traveling and having these experiences in the United States, very positive spiritual experiences, and um, just meeting different people and putting myself out there, I found myself to be living in Washington, D.C. at a apartment that my mom set up for me, because I would go out and then things would fall apart and I'd kind of have to come back home with my tail in between my legs. I'd have to go back to my family and say everything fell apart when I was traveling or what have you. So I found myself in Washington, D.C., working at this job, drinking, smoking, um, and I just started to bottom out. I really was driving on rims. I was completely psychologically destabilizing. I was becoming schizophrenic. I was super anxious. I was super depressed. I was drinking. I was smoking. I was doing anything to cope with this suffering while not actually dealing with it. And my all of my health was just bottoming out. At that time, I said, okay, Washington, D.C., living here is too stimulating for me. And I moved away from Washington, D.C. to a more rural area nearby. I calmed down, I settled down a little bit, but I was still suffering and things were not working out. So, because I'd had these past experiences of putting myself out there and being in spiritual community or meeting spiritual people, I said, hey, wait a minute. Aren't there like residential meditation centers? Aren't there places where I can go to like live and be in spiritual community? I think that's what I need. So I reached out to one of these places. I applied. They told me, you're too young to stay here. I was 20 at the time, but you can apply at this place. This place that they recommended me is called Upaya Zen Center in New Mexico. And there's still a lot of residential opportunities there for young people and anyone to go and get some training. So I applied, they accepted me, and I went to live at this Zen Buddhist training center in New Mexico for a year. Living in community with experienced spiritual people who are grounded and compassionate, getting access to some spiritual teachings, and intensive meditation, right? Intensive meditation retreats, meditating for hours every day, facing down my suffering, facing down my demons from this place of stability, right? From this place of groundedness and rootedness of Zen Buddhism. So I stayed there for a year. I healed my mind a lot. I felt this physical structure of my brain change through this training. That's how much healing took place. I went for a couple years after leaving there, being more successful in my material life. So I was more balanced, I was more peaceful, I was more based and chill. And eventually I found myself to be 25 years old, living in Seattle, high-level stoner, 2017 Camry with tinted windows and two 12-inch subwoofers and aftermarket speakers, 1200-watt amp, sick gaming setup, sick place to live, cool people around, totally new life and new experience, a great job, right? Living in Seattle, and I had redefined myself and I'd redefined my life and I had achieved material success. At that point, I realized that this is not freedom for me. That wasn't freedom, right? Living that way was not freedom for me. And I made the decision, already being a Buddhist, already being a meditator, already having relationships with monks, right? These kinds of experiences. I said, I'm going to leave this life behind. I need to leave all these things behind. I need to give up my job, my relationships, my housing, everything. And, I'm going to become a monk, whatever that means. And I didn't know what that meant at that time. So I started by giving up everything that I had and kind of wandering in the US, different temples, different communities, just kind of going around. And eventually that didn't work out, right? That doesn't really work like that. You can't be a monk like that. And once again, I wound up back with my family, tail tucked between my legs. I had given everything up that I gained. I gave up all my material success. I gave up all this wealth and power and freedom, being over in Seattle, right? And now I was back on the East Coast with my family. What am I going to do? I can still see in my mind the Wikipedia page of Buddhist countries. What is a Buddhist country, right? What is it? And I saw Thailand, Myanmar, Sri Lanka, 99% Buddhist. And I said, well, I reached out to monks through Facebook and I said, hey, I want to become a monk. Is it possible? Is it reasonable? And they said, yeah, it's possible. If you're out here, we'll talk with you. We'll connect with you and we'll see what happens. I saved up enough money. I flew to Thailand. I started knocking on those temple doors, and bing, bang, boom. In 2018, at 25 years old, I ordained and I became a Buddhist monk in Chiang Mai, Thailand. So since 2018, I have been living as a Buddhist monk in monasteries around the world, specifically Thailand and Myanmar. I have a main teacher that I follow whose name is Sayadaw Ashin Otamasara. We have meditation centers all throughout the world, in Italy, in America, in Thailand, in Myanmar, in Taiwan, in Malaysia, in Singapore. The main center, the main meditation center in Myanmar has over 5,000 people. If everyone who's watching this live stream right now, which is about, somewhere around 30 people or even more, 40 people, showed up today, showed up tomorrow at that main center in Myanmar, everybody would be accommodated. No problem. Housing, shelter, healthcare, full support. And so I am here not only representing myself, but I am here as a representative of Buddhism. I am here as a representative of the Tabarwa organization, which I am under the umbrella of. And I am here as a representative of monastics worldwide. So that's a little bit of an introduction about me, how I became a monk, where I am now, as a meditation teacher, as a monk that is a leader of spiritual communities, as a teacher of Buddhism, as a teacher in my organization that I'm a part of. Currently, I am a part of a group of about 50 people that are national guests of the Vietnamese government in Hanoi, Vietnam, where we are conducting a 3-month intensive meditation retreat. And right now that retreat is ongoing, and I'm here to invite everyone to ask questions, and I'll do my best to share from my experience and hopefully answer in a beneficial way. Okay? Thank you, Yam, for having me, and look forward to the questions that everybody has. Maybe we can prioritize the people who are here in the stage. So if you're here in the stage channel, you should be able to raise your hand and you can come up and ask a question with your voice. And then we also have the Yamcast chat where people can write down their questions. Okay? But whatever questions come through, it's okay. Do you have some questions on your end? Yeah. Oh, indefinitely. Indefinitely, for sure. It's just a matter of, because, so like even the word Myanmar, the word Burma is very mystical, because this is a society, right? This is a country and a world that's totally outside the bounds in like every single way of what you know about as an American or as a European, completely out of the bounds. It's like a Buddhist Saudi Arabia. It's like a Buddhist Iraq or something. I mean, it doesn't make sense what it is. Um, so if you have the real relationships with the high level Buddhist monks or the teachers, then they will arrange for you. They will organize for you so that you can have a long-term meditation visa or a long-term religious visa and stay in the country, right? So for me, like what I can say easily for anyone here is that if you had the like heart, mind, full commitment to be a monk or to be a volunteer, to be a yogi full time, um, we are ready, our organization is ready to support you full time, whether that's in our center in Italy or our main center in Myanmar or centers in Thailand. We are prepared for that kind of support. And that's what the Buddhist Sangha is all about. The Buddhist community of monks and nuns and lay people is that it's not a spectator sport. It's not a yoga studio. It's everything, right? And so if you are ready to give up everything, the Buddhist Sangha, the Buddhist community is ready to give everything. So like I can say for me, when I became a monk, when I left America behind and moved to Thailand, I had no idea what being a monk was going to be like. Had no idea if I would ever have money again. I had no idea if I would have a phone, what freedoms I would have. I certainly didn't know that I would like be in a teaching position or anything like that. I was ready to give up everything. And because of that, I've gotten back everything. I've gotten more than I ever had in my life before in every dimension. But that starting point is to give up everything. And that's kind of why, that's a part of why Western people are not well known or well suited to become monks. Because we can say that like people tend to have three dispositions, three poisons that they are naturally connected to. One of the three: delusion, greed, or anger. Excuse me. Delusion, greed, or anger. So like complicated, confused thinking, anger, or greediness. And so in modern America, right, which is the number one influencer of the world globally, greed is king. And so people who have that disposition or that proclivity towards greed why would they want to renounce, right? Why would they want to give up whatever they've gotten? So there's kind of a natural boundary for becoming a monk in that it is antithetical to a greed-based mindset. So just to share that. Yeah, I can see it. And Yam, and Yam, as as we go through this and as I answer questions, please, if you have some clarifying point or follow up that you'd like to step into, that's very appreciated, because I know that you have a lot of experience as well in the practice and in giving things up. So please feel comfortable to share any clarifying points or questions. I think people get a lot of benefit from that. Yeah. Okay, yeah, so I see Alana. has a question, and Alana says, my mic doesn't work. How is the support from your family? I've been considering making a move from the U.S. to somewhere away from materialistic distraction to work on my spirituality, but I'm worried about hurting my relationships with my loved ones. Makes me feel guilty. It's a lot of questions in there. It's a lot of points in there, Alana. What I can say is that initially my family didn't know what to make of becoming a monk, and they still don't necessarily know what it means to be a monk, right? What it means to be a renunciate, because our society doesn't value that. We don't have the cultural context for giving value to renunciation. We don't have that in our society, right? So even like now, it's not normal, or it's not comfortable for my family to like donate to me, right? To make a donation or to make an offering to me. And that goes the same for Western people, because it's like we're very transactional minded. We buy and sell. We're comfortable to buy something. If there's a reason, right, then we'll pay for it. We'll buy it. But that notion of just giving away or offering out, especially for virtue, right? We're donating to virtuous people. It doesn't really make sense from the Western context. So initially, and still up to the present day, there's some separation in how my family supports me, because they just don't have the cultural background for certain aspects of being a monk. And I also don't have them, so I'm not in the best position to explain them to them. But after I left my life behind, became a monk, and lived over in Asia for a number of years, and kind of visiting them maybe once a year or so, they really experienced directly, this health and wealth, right? That I am healthy and wealthy in terms of body and mind, heart and mind, so that they see that and they appreciate that, and then they naturally support me, even though they don't necessarily understand what it is to be a monk, and they don't know how to be in relationship with that, right? So, and that's something I encounter a lot online. Like people who follow my teachings and appreciate me a lot and believe in me a lot, but they don't necessarily know how to be in relationship with me as a donor, as a supporter, as someone who reaches out and says, hey, Bhante, do you need anything? Right? Is there something that, if you need anything, reach out to me, let me know, and I'll take care of it. I'll manage it for you. They don't have any context for what a monk is. So they think that this is as most things are for Western people, a form of entertainment, right? That this is kind of, I'm putting on a show, I'm doing a kind of performance, and that, it's kind of, that it's to be entertained or it's to be consumed. When actually, this is an opportunity for you to, sure, practice, but it's also an opportunity for you to donate. It's also an opportunity for you to be a supporter and a volunteer in my life as a renunciate, because I don't have a job. I'm not a salesperson. I'm not a performer, right? I don't make money from putting on a monk robe and sharing with people. This is my life, and I happen to be sharing that, offering that out non-transactionally. So that's a unique experience that I have, because like in the Asian context or in the Buddhist community, if you are following a monk and they're one of your teachers and they are like doing a lot of work to share and to bring benefit and to share their life, it's a very clear question, like, what is the monk going to eat every day? Where is the teacher going to sleep? Bhante, what's going on? Do you have everything you need? Is there something I can do for you? But for Western people, they just don't have that background. So my family also doesn't have that. And so there's some disconnection there. But if we really want to work, to get to the next point of your question, if we really want to work on our spirituality, we need to be ready to detach. We need to be ready to change our life, right? We need to be ready to abandon the person, the place, and the period of time or the situation, so that through our detachment, we can open out, we can widen out to have a deeper experience of spirituality or meditation or changing our life. Okay? Thank you for your question, Alana.
On my live, Travis Gilbertson asks, what is the best way to focus while you're meditating?
So, the best way to focus while you're meditating is to meditate in a natural way, to meditate in a way that is not objective based, is not desire based, and is also not fear based or avoidance based. So, a good practice for anyone to do is a walking meditation where you walk and open the heart, open the mind, open the body, and you just walk openly, breathing and walking. No objective, no expectation, no progress, nothing like that, but just walking, just putting yourself out there. And one of the main points that is emphasized in Buddhism and in the life of a monk is generosity. Okay? These two sides go directly together, generosity and detachment, a willingness to abandon and wisdom. These go together, right? So if you want to practice meditation in the right way, you need to practice meditation according to generosity, virtue, right? Living an ethical life, and also be wisdom informed or insight informed, so that you are concerned with the community of monks, or you are concerned with high level wisdom sources, not just vaguely, I'm going to meditate, because this is not what the spiritual path is about. Everyone wants everything to be McDonald's or Amazon or, Wendy's. This isn't your fridge. Buddhism isn't your fridge. A monk is not your fridge. Meditation is not your fridge. So we need to be ready to give away. We need to be ready to abandon. And a lot of people can empathize with high level spiritual teachings or ideas. Okay. They can empathize with high level wisdom practices in terms of meditation or how you carry your mind or how you live, right? But most of the time, those are not actionable ways of practice. So for most people, right, meditating is most of the time not actionable for you, whereas generosity is, whereas following precepts is, whereas doing good deeds is. So we have to become realistic, reasonable, and grounded. And the way that we do that is by being in relationship with the spiritual community. I'll say something here, and I want to make it very clear. There is no stronger organization of meditation, wisdom, and virtue than Buddhism. By many metrics, right? The community of Buddhist monks and nuns, 1 million plus strong, running countries, running societies. So if you are serious about spirituality, you should concern yourself with the workings of the Buddha, the Dhamma, and the Sangha. Really, you should. Because we have the most to offer. We have the most to make use of compared to any other spiritual tradition by many, many metrics. Of course, you can't say this absolutely because, what's actionable? Do you have a Sikh temple nearby? Go there. Do you have a Hindu ashram nearby? Go there. Check it out. Do you have a secular meditation group near you? Go there, check it out. But I think it's valuable to recognize that, like the Buddha, the Dhamma, and the Sangha, the Buddhist community of monks and nuns, the Buddhist teachings, listen, we're all about like ultimate truth, DMT reality, direct secular meditation, no toys, no scams, no tricks, no ethereal beings or spiritual materialism. And we are monks and we are running countries. So, and we are organized, right? So if this, you really want to change your life, you should concern yourself with the Buddha, the Dhamma, and the Sangha. That is, you should concern yourself with the notion of being able to become enlightened that the Buddha represents and is most established in representing that. The Dhamma, which is the Buddhist teachings or the wisdom teachings, and the Sangha, the community of monks and nuns. But you will get back what you do. You will receive what you are willing to give away. What I mean by DMT reality, I'm just talking to some, of the youth or the modern spiritual people who are very focused on like astral projection and special realms of experience and the ultimate truth as it's concerned with having a, psychotic, schizophrenic DMT trip. We are the authorities on it. We're the DMT kings. We are the DMT Elfin Assembly, the Buddhist monks and nuns. Okay? In a lot of ways. So, if you want to meet the elven kingdom of, spiritual, the DMT world, come to Myanmar. If you want to go into the DMT world, come and live in Myanmar. We'll show you what the DMT world is like. And you won't need to have, this kind of schizophrenic, destabilizing experience to do that. And you won't have to go back to like, okay, I had a DMT ultimate enlightenment realm. Now it's time for me to go to McDonald's and work. Why do we need to keep ourselves in that position? Why do we need to be, these spiritual materialists? Why do we need to be these, in this cogs in the capitalist machine, and that's how we do our spirituality? No, you should be ready to abandon everything. That's my point of view. And you don't need to become a monk or a nun. You can become a yogi. You can become a meditator. You can become a volunteer. Right? It's for a lot of people, it's going to be a heck of a lot better than, living in your parents' house or living in some horrible American city or town and working at a meaningless job and trying to, keep your life together. We need volunteers. We need meditators. We need yogis, not just spiritual materialists, not just part-time crooks. We need full-time crooks. We need people who are ready to change their life and do good deeds limitlessly, to create organizations, create meditation centers, create Dhamma hospitals. So this is what, I'm here representing this work, and this is an invitation as much as it is anything else. We need full-time crooks.
Just quickly to add to that, as you were saying that, you got many people excited. And Flow with Paige asks, where can I sign up to something like this?
It's tough. It's tough because we have grown up in a society. We've grown up in a McDonald's society. We've grown up in a blockbuster. I grew up in a blockbuster society, and that eventually became, a Netflix society or a YouTube society or a TikTok society. So you guys, for most people, and I'm not talking to anybody personally, but for most people, you aren't ready to sign up. You aren't ready to even, send a direct message. You aren't ready to follow up, let alone sign up, let alone show up. We've got to swallow that pill. You're not ready to give away the way that you've been living your life. You're not ready to change your life. Okay? And it's also not rejection. right? It's not that you're rejecting, okay, this movie I reject, this movie I want. I'm getting rid of this movie, I'm going to go to that movie. It's generosity, it's opening the heart mind, right? It's this willingness, it's this exploration to go out, to abandon your life, not to reject it, but to abandon it. So, where do you sign up? Well, look, you know, I know some people are watching through Yam Stream, so there's maybe some work to do, but starting point, www.monklife.one, www.monklife.one. Okay, and ONE is spelled out. That's a little bit of a starting point, connection point. I have a Discord server that I run, not monklife.one. Come on. monklife.one, spelled out. See, this is the thing, and this kind of goes to the point, right? When we grow up in a Netflix society, when we grow up in a TikTok society, every barrier, every boundary is our quitting point, right? The moment that someone says, okay, monklife.one, and you have to spell it out, I quit. People are really like that because it's not monklife.com or it's not monklife.org. But monklife.one, no, I can't do that. People are, so people like myself and also Yam, we're very aware of that. And we try to communicate and we try to connect with people in a way that keeps you guys kind of on the hook and makes it accessible for people who live a TikTok lifestyle. And we all have those qualities of mind. So it's not that you're American or that you are privileged or whatever, so that you have this problem. Everybody has this condition. It's just a quality of the mind. But we're ready to give up. We're ready to quit rather than ready to continue, rather than ready to try, right? And when we are ready to try, we pick each and every moment to quit. So like, oh, I can remember. So here's a good example. And please, I am accessible. I am online. I have a Discord. Yam has a Discord. You can reach out to Yam if you want to follow up with me. I'm sure that they can, send you my email or whatever. There's a route here. Where can I sign up? There is definitely a route here. Okay. But it's more about your sincerity, your authenticity, your intention. Let me give you an example. And then there's this rush, right? There's this, okay, give me the Discord, give me the website. I got to send you the email now. What you need to do is stop and this is your show up. Just be here. There's no rush. Right? It's like we're in the McDonald's drive-thru and we start beeping our horn. You're at a fast food place. You're in the drive-thru. You're here. I'm here. So just show up and listen, the heart, mind, the breathing, okay? Now, I want to give you an example from when I first started. And there's nowhere to rush to. That's like a deeper truth there. There's nowhere to go. There's nothing to do. You're home. And from being home, you can go where you are. Wherever you are, that's where you'll be. And that's where I can meet you. I'll give you an example from when I first started. So when I was living in Seattle and I reached this point of like ultimate success in my material life, way more than I ever expected to reach. And then I gave away, I got this exceptional mindset of like, this job is keeping me trapped in, social contracts. I've got to abandon it. This relationship is keeping me trapped in, desire and fear. I got to abandon it. This place that I'm living isn't completely perfect. I've got to abandon it. And so I found myself like living out of my car, meditating and giving away my possessions and, just being monk mode in Seattle. Now I burnt myself out living that way. And so I knew this teacher, I knew this temple nearby Seattle. And I went there and the master, the head monk there was like, yeah, you can stay here. Like I'll help you to become a monk. I'll train you. And amazing master, amazing situation. I can remember going there, staying there for like a week or two, and eventually I was like, yeah, this place is kind of good and all, but they don't even have a compost. How can I stay at a temple that doesn't have a compost? How can me, this spiritual person, this ultimate yogi, this super meditator, how can I get trained at a place that isn't composting? So, this is also the mindset that's going to keep you from stepping forward. That's why we need to emphasize detachment. That's why we need to emphasize that which is actionable in terms of detachment, which is generosity. Start being more generous. Start doing good deeds. Start emphasizing to live a virtuous life. And if you really get to the point where you are ready to detach, ready to abandon, ready to give away not just a little bit of money or not just a little bit of your time, but you're ready to give away your life, your body and mind, I'm ready to help you. And not just me, but the organization that I'm a part of, the Buddhist Sangha. The Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha are here to support you. It's all about
Shall
your
we invite
willingness.
someone up to speak?
Yeah, go ahead, Yam. I think Skittles wanted to ask something, so we can see if Skittles can come up.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. So my question was kind of when you first started, what was probably the most memorable thing? I don't know how to word it, like the most memorable thing from going from like a very individualistic American society to suddenly being in like a community that you experienced.
The freedom to abandon my ego. The freedom to abandon my self-story. And that it is possible to be in community according to that willingness to detach, that power of selflessness rather than self. So to really experience that I can be a valuable member of a community because I am willing to abandon myself, because I am willing to meditate, because I am willing to study the Buddhist teachings, right? The Dhamma, the wisdom teachings. Buddhism isn't a bad word. Buddhism isn't a taboo word. And Buddhism is real. And Buddhism is based. And Buddhism is chill. So for anyone who's really looking onto the spiritual path, and I don't care if you like DMT or you like Eckhart Tolle or you like Ellen Watts, whatever it is, there is no stronger, more established, more powerful spiritual organization representing the ideals of enlightenment than Buddhism or Ram Dass, right? Than the Buddhist tradition. And there's a lot of variety there. It's not just this Buddhist person or that Buddhist person or this tradition or that tradition, but it's a reflection point. It's an investigation point. What is Buddhism? You might be someone, I've been involved in spirituality and I've been taking a bunch of DMT and I've been talking to elves and stuff. I did hear kind of about Buddhism. I wonder what that is. In the world of spirituality, in the world of enlightenment, even the world of healing trauma, in the world of spiritual community, that's the number one. In the world of spiritual community, Buddhism is the last thing we could call it is a vague subject. The most successful spiritual community in the history of human society is the Buddhist Sangha. Too much Terence McKenna, not enough Ajahn Brahm. Too much, what's that enlightened, what's the Tara Ghul, or what's that guy's name? Actualize.org. Actualize.org. Oh my God. What's this guy's name? It doesn't show up. Anyway, too much Western spiritualists and not enough Thich Nhat Hanh. Too much spiritual materialism and not enough spiritual community. Right? And it's not about taking either. It's kind of about being willing to be an adventurer and being willing to support and be supported and to humble yourself. We're not used to, American people, Western people, we're not used to being in community. We're not used to respecting other people, modern people. It's not just West, it's modern people. We're not used to respecting people. We're not used to being humbled. We're not used to having leaders. We're not used to having mentors, most of us. So when you get into the spiritual community, you're in for a wake-up call. And you've got to be ready to support and offer out, not just like, what can I get from it? Leo Gura. Too much Leo Gura and not enough Thich Nhat Hanh. Okay? It's a nightmare. And I get so upset about, that's one of the things that kind of frustrates me or concerns me about modern spiritualists on TikTok or on, people like Leo Gura or stuff. They might have a lot of strong information and even they might have a strong experience, but the only thing that they offer to you is this appearance, this surface level, what you can consume and what you can believe in, and then eventually what you can claim to be your own. There's no meditation center. There's no community. There's nowhere where you can show up. There's nowhere where you can build a house. There's nowhere where you can volunteer. There's nowhere where you can use your power, your health and wealth, mentally or physically, okay, to help children, to build hospitals, to volunteer, to be in community, to become a monk or a nun, to support monks or nuns. They're selling you trash. And what's behind that trash is just them sitting there going insane. A lot of the time. We've got to be ready to change our life. And the more healthy and wealthy you become, the more generous you should become. Anyway, it's not a perfect, nothing needs to be perfect. But I'm just here to share and invite you guys to get involved, invite you all to get involved. And let's keep asking questions, and I'll keep trying to give good answers.
So I have a question myself.
Yeah.
I think that since I share a lot of perspectives on Eastern religions and philosophy, my viewers are probably a little more familiar with Hinduism. So could you share some of the similarities and differences and relationship between Buddhism and Hinduism?
Right. I can't really say too much about Hinduism, to be honest. What I can say is that like people like Sadguru. Sadguru is a gold standard. You know Sadguru, right, Yam?
Oh, definitely. Yeah.
Okay, all right. So Sadguru is not a Buddhist. Sadguru is not a Buddhist teacher for sure, and he doesn't represent Buddhism in any way. And some people even consider that some of the things that he says about Buddhism is not quite on the money. But Sadguru is a gold standard. And Sadguru is offering the Isha Foundation, place where you can go and volunteer, you can change your life. There's probably some cost basis, there's some limitations to what he does, but there's that availability there. There's that openness there for you to change your life and to get involved and to volunteer. Okay, so we need to look to these people who are at the gold standard. Maybe I'm someone who's like at a silver standard, okay, or a silver standard. I think that's fair to say, actually. And most people are at maybe a copper standard, or most people are at like an iron standard, right? A workable metal, but not a valuable metal, or a steel standard. And then a lot of people are in a kind of rust standard, right? A lot of people's lives are falling apart. So we need to look to these people that are silver standard or gold standard, and we need to get involved. We need to follow their teachings. We need to put it into practice so that we can have an experience and we can have an understanding for ourselves, right? And then there are like a diamond standard, so to speak, but that's all about present moment experiencing. That's all about being there, right? So Thich Nhat Hanh is a diamond standard when you're in the Plum Village community, when you are in his interbeing body at Deer Park Monastery in California or Plum Village in France, right? The diamond body, the Vajra body is there, the diamond standard, okay? And that's, you get involved, you put yourself out there. The thing with Hinduism is that there are many different theories. There are many different ideas, many different approaches, and even to say Hinduism is not really clear. So when we say Hinduism, we're talking about many, many different traditions, and some modern Hindu kind of reformists, not really act like Sadguru wouldn't say this or present it this way, but some people who are trying to like defend Hinduism will say, okay, yeah, there's a lot of different stuff in Hinduism, but the foundation is like a neo-Advaita Vedanta perspective, or like a fundamentalist non-dual perspective, and then yogic practices to get to that non-dualist experience or unification with Brahman or whatever. But actually, even the term Hinduism is something that was coined by colonizers, right? It wasn't coined by the people. And what they were kind of pointing to, right, is like a caste system. So if you were to say like what Hinduism actually is, you're probably talking about the caste system as it relates to the very highly evolved and developed animism that came out of India, right? This kind of spiritual primordial ooze, right? What do they call it? The like the primordial ooze that the evolution came out of?
Soup, I think, tends to be the word.
I don't know
Primordial
what.
soup.
Yeah, something like a primordial soup, right? So you should try to make use of what's available to you, and don't get too much stuck in the terms of Hinduism or Buddhism. But Buddhism is a little bit more specific. It's a particular tradition. It's a particular philosophy. It's a particular set of practices that are standardized across all the different traditions. And so it's a little bit more workable for Western people in general. But a lot of modern Western people, it kind of goes together, but a lot of people are mainly interested in spiritual entertainment or consuming. So in that case, it's not it's not really about anything that's actionable. It's just what's tasty, what's easy to consume. So I recommend, if you're interested in Hinduism, that you look towards Sadguru, right? Sadguru is a gold standard, and then you can look at volunteering or getting involved with Isha Foundation. That's what I recommend for Hinduism. Okay? Whereas in Hinduism, there are a lot of different archetypes and traditions and sects that are focused on a lot of different things, deity worship and, tantric practices and kundalini, all these different schools and traditions. Buddhism is a little bit more secular in nature. And even though we might enjoy like the consumption of spiritualities that are, Vishnu and Rama and Brahman and all this kind of stuff, actually modern people are trained to be secular. We have a secular mindset. So we need tools and philosophies that are actionable, and somewhat secular in nature. That's what tends to be digestible for us. So that's what I can say about Hinduism. Can't say too much about it, actually.
I have noticed that Buddhism tends to be very precise and scientific with the way that it lays out the practice, with the Buddha laying out the Four Noble Truths, the Eightfold Path, the Three Marks of Suffering. It's always the definitions of the terms are have no room for any sort of vagueness. They're very concrete, which I think many people might gravitate toward if they're looking for something along those lines.
Yeah, and even better is put your body to work, put your mind to work. So volunteer, do actions of generosity, donate, do good deeds. Look on Google Maps for Buddhist temple near me, or ashram near me, or meditation center near me, and just go and show up and have an experience. Right? If you've got a bigger heart mind intention about becoming a monk or a nun, or reaching out to me, or going to stay at a meditation center, yeah, you can reach out to me. We can see what happens, but mainly just there's nothing more digestible than actionable mental and physical movements. So emphasize that rather than the philosophy or the spirituality, whatever. Emphasize getting involved. And if you can reify, if you can deepen, if you can empower that intention, then the main point is that you are going forward. It's not about sleeping. It's not about Hinduism. It's not about Buddhism. It's not about this place or that place. It's about going forward. And you will go forward in the most direct and actionable way according to your karma, according to your cause and conditions. And then you don't need to worry about me or Buddhism or Hinduism or this person or that person. You're just going forward. And it's inclusive of everyone, anyone, everything, anything, anytime, every time, all the time. Okay, let's go to our next question. All right, we have a question here in the Discord, so we'll invite this person to come up and speak. And a couple questions through the YouTube stream. Someone said, "Are you willing to speak on Theravada versus Mahayana? Pick your poison. Whatever is practical and actionable, put it into practice and get an experience of it." Okay, Sydney, interesting question here, says, what is your understanding since dealing with schizophrenia, healing, and how there should be a spiritual place for people to go versus modern hospitals, how to deal with being diagnosed with something? The mind and the body are under the control of cause and effect. The mind and the body are influenced primarily by cause and effect, action and reaction. So if you are aware that you have mental health issues, you need to start taking mental health actions, not just mental health consumption. Okay? I can say from my experience is that being in community with people who are wise, compassionate, simplified, and stabilized helped my mind to be wise, compassionate, simplified, and stabilized. Okay? Having a mind that was bereft, wrought by instability, complicatedness, and consumption and avoidance, it was essential to practice being simply stable, concentrated, non-complicated. We have to be careful about surround yourself with love because it's a vague notion. Of course, the intention is clear and the intention is right and true, right? Surround yourself with love. But schizophrenia or anxiety or depression are not vague notions. Suffering is not a vague notion. This body and mind of impermanence, sickness, old age, and death, this suffering that you're in is not a vague notion. So buying candles, I hope Yam doesn't have a TikTok shop with a bunch of candles and crystals and things like that in it.
No, you're good.
Buying crystals and candles and surrounding yourself with love isn't going to work because you've got a serious situation to deal with. You've got to reach out to the monk and say, what the heck do I do? I've got this money, help me. Where do I go? What do I do? Can you help me? Listen, because I've been there. I've been in the situation of severe mental health crisis, severe social health crisis, severe emotional health crisis. And I tell you what, cigarettes didn't fix it, alcohol didn't fix it, and surrounding myself, this isn't personal, nothing is personal. Surrounding myself with love or being spiritual or empathizing with spiritual ideas or listening to Alan Watts or reading The Power of Now didn't cut it. Because most of my life was about selfishness. Most of my life was about desire and fear. Most of my life was surrounded by attachment. You need to be ready to change it. How many people are killing themselves every day? How many people are committing suicide every day instead of leaving their job at McDonald's, instead of abandoning their life? People are committing suicide with thousands of dollars in the bank and with a passport in their pocket. Why aren't you going to Thailand, for God's sakes? What are you doing? It's because people are bereft with attachment and self-fixation in this tangled up knot of vague notions and vague ideas of community and vague ideas of self-direction and vague ideas of changing your life. Okay? This robe is not vague. The being a guest of the Vietnamese government as a part of a party of 50 monks, nuns, meditators, and yogis following my teacher Sayadaw Ashino Tamasara is not a vague notion. And sadly, we've got people who are skillful to be vague about meditation and Buddhism and, being an enlightened kind of person, but they're not vague about causing problems. They're not vague about putting their foot into other people's business and trying to make problems and suffering. Right? They're not vague about taking actions of selfishness, of desire, of fear, of control. So we need to become powerful to vote in the Dhamma election, to change our life, to become a monk or a nun, to become a yogi, to become a meditator, to abandon our life, to use our money and our resources as it is concerned with the Buddha and the Dhamma and the Sangha, as it is concerned with volunteering, helping, sharing, protection, and cooperation. What are we talking about here? What kind of life do you want to live? Because I'll tell you what, being a high-level stoner isn't that meaningful and rewarding. And it is, and I was spiritual and stoned out and, vibed out and cooled out and whatever. It's not that meaningful. It's not that rewarding. So what are we going to do? How are we going to move forward? Not just using a self-power. You can live a lay life. You can be a normal person. Okay, you can be a business person, but if you are a business person only for yourself, then you will likely to be an insane person in one degree or another. This life is not all about you, and what we need in this modern world is people who are willing to do good deeds, to be generous, to cooperate, and a lot of the times that's what your mental and social and psychological health needs as well. If you want to be a business person, then you should also be a donor. If you want to be a kind of, a self-focused person of enjoying yourself and having nice things and spending most of the time and energy for yourself, then you should be a volunteer. If you are concerned with being a spiritual person, a meditator, etc., then you should be a yogi. You should take the next step. There is something about this only secular life that is not working for a lot of people, for most people. And that doesn't mean that they're necessarily aware of their suffering or their difficulty. They might just be running around with a big, stupid, ignorant smile on their face and causing problems for everyone else. And we can't give our power to the political leaders. We can't give our power to this, DMT realm of elves and cause and effect. We need to take responsibility for our moment-by-moment life. We need to take responsibility for what this body and mind is capable of doing. Not just for oneself, but for all. www.monklife.one. This is a starting point. This is an invitation point. www.monklife.one. This is a donation point. It's so weird for me as a monk and as a Western person, because when I joined the Sangha, when I joined the Buddhist community, you can even do www.monklife.one/donate. When I joined the Buddhist community, I went head over heels. I was already a Buddhist and a meditator, but I was a Buddhist and a meditator in a secular context, in a limited context, an Americanized context. And when I left my life behind and when I, stepped out of the U.S. on faith and on trust and innocently to join the Sangha in Thailand, I went from being a normal person and a meditator to being a monk. Right? To being a full-time monk. And that means a lot in Buddhist countries and Buddhist societies. I never had the chance to be a kepia. I never had the chance to be a donator or a supporter. I never had to be a chance to be like a layperson supporting the monks, right? And I miss that. I miss out on that because there is such a joy of supporting, donating, volunteering for, being involved with, taking care of virtuous people, wise people, meditative people. Right? It is a wonderful opportunity and a wonderful gift to donate to the monk or nun. That's just if you empathize or understand, like, oh, this is a virtuous person, this is a meditative person, this is a person who has some wisdom. The opportunity to donate to them is a wonderful field of merit. Merit is like you get the good effects from doing good deeds. Let alone if this person is one of your teachers, right? This person is someone who's helping you and supporting you. Like, that's opportunity to donate and support. So I'm kind of in the odd position of, like, for me, I have to say that kind of in my behalf, but also just objectively, because most of the people that I work with, most of the people that I follow, don't know what a monk is and don't have much of a relationship with generosity, right? So I'm saying it both as like an objective observer, but also as like a monk where, you don't have to donate to me. I'm not asking anybody for money or for support. But I do go out with my robe and my bowl. All the food that I eat every day is food that's donated to me, right? Everything that I'm using to do this, right? SIM cards and a phone and computer and microphone, trying to do this as a high quality, right? As I can, so that people feel connected and people feel they're here. This is all through generosity. This is all through donations. I've been a Buddhist monk for 5 years. I don't work. I don't sell anything. I don't tell people to give me money. It's all through generosity. And so, in the same way, we can live our life through the practice of generosity. Not transaction, not buying and selling, but donating, volunteering, sharing out, doing good deeds. And eventually, we don't have to take DMT to get to the point of mindfulness and detachment, the dissolution of the self, the dissolution of this notion of permanence, of being fixed, of being trapped, of being stuck in someone, someplace, sometime. Because look, everybody, even if you're just a materialist or you're not a spiritual person, you're just scientific about how you understand things, listen, this body is subject. Actually, these are called angels in Buddhism, 3 angels: sickness, old age, and death. This body is not to be attached to. To attach to this body is to attach to a rotting corpse, to hold on to it as being precious and valuable and essential and reliable. So we have to exercise our detachment. We have to practice generosity to give it away. And what's the other angel? The 4th angel is a mendicant, is a renunciate, is a monk. Not someone who's selling you spirituality. Not someone who's selling you a meditation program. Not somebody who's selling you, actualize.org. You are lucky to have the opportunity to be generous. You are lucky to have the opportunity to volunteer. You are lucky, you are fortunate to have the opportunity to meditate. You are blessed to have the opportunity to hear the Dhamma, to hear the deep teachings. Okay, so I think we have a question from Agent Revolution. Why don't you come up here and let's hear it, if you got a question. Anybody else who's here on the stage, you can also raise your hand and come up. What's this code here, Eski? I just see there's like a code. Is that some kind of wallet or something? Okay, so maybe Eski is collecting crypto donations, and then you'll donate them, you'll pass them along or something. Okay, Aged Revolution, you should see a button that you can press to come up to the stage and join. Maybe this should be a little bit more intuitive, right? And so the Buddhist monks and nuns, everybody. So we should be back online now, but there might be some issues that come up.
You're back, yeah.
Okay, I've got I've had a heck of a time trying to get a stable internet connection here at this temple. All right, so who's next? You have any questions on your end, Yam, on your stream?
I do. So when you were talking about growing past taking of psychedelics and drugs, Flow with Paige asked, do you feel like sacred herbs can help though?
Well, it's medicine. It's a matter of taking medicine, right? But what we can know very clearly and very directly from, let's even use the modern scientific position, the modern scientific point of view, right? What we need to know is that context is everything. The conditions are everything. And when it comes to a medicine, um, such as a spiritual medicine or what have you, it's all the more important that you have the right conditions long term, right? So I always try to tell people it's not a matter of you having a special experience, just in the same way that it's not a matter of you avoiding a big experience, okay? It's a matter of how you change your life. So medicines should be taken in a very careful way, right? For sure. Medicines should be taken in a very contemplative, careful way, but also they should be used in terms of the work to change your life, right? Not this case of, having a special experience and that somehow will solve your problem. Of course, it can be used. I don't have anything against medicine. I think medicine's really powerful. And for myself, I even see the power of taking a medicine in a Buddhist context, right? When you want to talk about protected spaces, like a lot of people have issues with anxiety, depression, or even paranoid schizophrenia, these kinds of issues, because they are in a vulnerable, unsafe place and they are hyper isolated, and the experience that they're having is not natural. It's not natural to be hyperly socially isolated and living in an apartment in a major city where you've got all this noise and people around and thin walls and sirens and helicopters, and you go out in New York City. This is not normal to be in that kind of environment. So it's natural that you're going to start to go crazy, that you're going to be exceedingly anxious, exceedingly confused, exceedingly depressed. So it's not enough to just take a week off, right? It's not enough to just step away from it for a while or take some mushrooms. You got to be ready to change your life. I think the medicines can be useful, but mostly, we need community supports. We need to really take kind of a totally different look at how we are living our lives, the kind of environments that we're in, the kind of community that we keep.
In my own experience, I found that such medicine you tend to have to respect as if it was its own entity in order to benefit from it. Otherwise, you develop a relationship where it's damaging you because it can be abused as an entertainment method when the point isn't to entertain yourself.
Right. And this is a lesson that I want to share with everybody, and you can maybe get this printed on a card or get this printed on a poster and share it. I don't know, but this is the message. It's not about feeling good. Life is not about feeling good. Life is about being good and doing good. Life is not about feeling good. It's about being good and doing good. If you can bring this perspective and bring this position into your life can change very, very, very quickly. Agent, why don't you try to restart your app? If we think that, everything in life is about feeling comfortable, feeling good, then when are you going to live your life? When are you going to get involved? How are you going to do what you should do? Okay, do we have any more questions?
One from a few minutes ago. Charles Dickens asked, will you ever become a bodhisattva, and can you explain what that is?
So a bodhisattva is a kind of archetype or a perspective on a type of practice, or almost like an attainment, a state that someone can attain or be in, which is that they put off their own enlightenment. They can become enlightened on their own, but they put off their own enlightenment for the sake of others, right? For the sake of enlightening all beings or helping all beings. Now, whether I will become that or am that is, I think, not too important. I don't really want to speak on that. But what I can say, the deeper teaching here, all right, very clear teaching here, is if you are interested in spirituality, enlightenment, Buddhism, whatever, you need to be practical. You need to live in such a way, you need to have a daily life in such a way that, you're composting. It's your day to compost, right? It's your day to help build a shed. It's your day to help lead the meditation or ring the bell. So what is all this talk about bodhisattvas, right? What's all this talk about the DMT elves? You're too busy being in community, practicing mindfulness and detachment, doing good deeds more and more. What I can say is that we should make a main priority of doing good deeds more and more, doing good deeds constantly, consistently, doing actions of generosity more and more and more and more. Not to be shy about doing like that and being like that.
Dean asks, how to end suffering?
Through the power of mindfulness and detachment, present moment awareness, with a willingness to not be involved or attached to what you are aware of. Mindfulness and detachment. Doing good deeds are more important than the DMT elves. Doing good deeds is more important than DMT, LSD, mushrooms. Doing good deeds is inclusive of these things, but that's not the point. And real meditation is not about meditation. Real meditation is natural meditation. But to practice natural meditation, you need to live in a natural way. That means that you need to live in a way that is concerned with the spiritual community, the spiritual teachings, and enlightenment, freedom, the finishing, the stopping, the ending, the resolution, the direct present moment experiencing that is defined by not defining reality as it is, the enlightenment of Siddhartha Gautama, the Buddha.
Oh, the page asks, detachment is something I've struggled with. Do you have any recommendations on how to practice this? And I will add to that, what is it that we are detaching ourselves from when monks speak of detachment?
You just see it like this: generosity. What do you have of value right now? For most of you, it's going to be money. It's going to be something to do with money or some possession that you have. Okay? All right? You give it away. It's precious to you. It's yours. It's mine. You're involved with it. You are attached to it. It's valuable. It's useful. You can use it for yourself. You can keep it for yourself. This money, this possession, this time, this body and mind. It's yours. You have a right to it. You take it and you give it away. You offer it out. Okay? We can develop our power of detachment by practicing generosity, by sharing out and offering out what we have, by using our possessions, by using our body and mind for all, not just for ourselves. Go ahead, Doka.
My passion, my desire, I don't have a physical item that I want. The desire I want is to give. I want
Hold
to bring
on.
harmony.
Who's speaking right now? Who's
Uh,
talking? Is it Doka or is it Dean?
Me, I'm talking.
Okay, Dean,
Not sure
please
about
mute
Dean.
your mic.
Hold on. Can you invite me again on my phone? I'll join real quick.
Okay, everything that has to do with advanced meditation experiences or special meditation experiences is not to be attached to and not to be relied upon. It is much easier to convince, especially as a modern person that is skillful, to get what you want. Your life is all about getting what you want. The society is all about getting what you want. The TV or the car or the technology or the content. It's all about getting what you want and being skillful and able to get what you want. Now, if we are invested in special meditation experiences or special spiritual perspectives, right? And we want to get that, it is much more likely that you will convince yourself that you have gotten that or convince yourself that you have experienced it rather than actually experience it. Now, why is that? Well, I'm going to tell it to you very clearly why that is. Because it's easier. It's easier to convince yourself that you've gotten to a position of attainment or a position of enlightenment rather than actually having gotten there. So more people are going to convince themselves of that. Okay, Dean says, how much were you paid to be here? Yam, how much was I paid to be here? Is there a check in the mail? Okay, so
you are here free of charge.
that's right. I'm here free of charge. I am here openly. And as a monk, there's not anything that I do where I am for pay or for hire. Okay, I'm a volunteer. I am a donator. I am a sharer. I am a Buddhist monk, so I'm not charging for my time. It's a privilege for me to be here, you know. It's a joy to be here. Okay, so we've got two people who I think want to come up to the stage, ask a question.
Hi. I'm like you're talking a lot about detaching yourself from these material things and being generous, and I'm just curious about not the thing that you're detaching yourself from, but the thing that is being detached from those things, right? Like that kind of idea of self, if you will. Like how does what is this self in your mind?
It's nothing. It's a load of crap. But you're not going to brute force that. You're not going to experience that deeply because you want to experience that deeply or because you empathize with that notion. It's just like with detachment, right? How do we develop detachment? How do we practice detachment? What is detachment? Well, it's letting go of something that you're attached to. It's giving away something that you are holding on to. When you do that
I
a
guess I'm
lot,
just
when you become skillful to donate, when you become skillful to volunteer, when you become skillful to give up your body and mind, which is within your capacity to do, you will also become skillful to understand more deeply what is no self, what is no desire, what is no fear, what is no grasping, what is no self fixation. And at that time, not through philosophizing, not through intellectualizing, not through your kind of interest in being special or having a special understanding, right? Or the convenience of no self, but through being generous, through volunteering, through giving away what you value and what you hold on to. Now you can start to ask this question: what is the self? What is this? Okay. So, it's that tough stuff of you want to know about the truth, give away what you are attached to. I mean, I think that this kind of notion or this kind of principle is why, like, some of the, those horrible prosperity preachers, prosperity gospel preachers who are like, if you give money to me and give money to my church, then you will have, you'll have money in heaven, or God will give you back what you give away. Right. I think it's one of the reasons that these traditions are able to be really successful, because there is some truth to like the power of generosity and the detachment that goes along with it, or the connection to the truth that you're able to develop according to generosity, according to giving away what you are holding on to. There's some power to that. So we have a question on the YouTube, and I hope you're still here, Jen. Jen said, Bhante, I feel that the path through Buddhism is more open to males than females still in this modern world. I acknowledge that there are nuns, but it seems more difficult or less available than paths open to monks and males. Can you speak on this from your perspective? I can help you become a nun. I can help you ordain and become a full-time Buddhist nun. But yes, what you are saying is true. There are less male Buddhist temples. There are less female Buddhist temples. There are more male-run Buddhist societies. But it is possible to be a nun, to become a nun. I can help you to do that. But the difficulty that's there is the difficulty anyone's going to face. Any modern person it's going to be exceedingly difficult for you to become a monk or a nun, because you've been trained in a certain sense to be greedy and to know the value of greed. but you have not been trained and you do not have the cultural background to know the value of renunciation or generosity. Yeah, LGBTQ plus is also okay, but if there's also going to be difficulties in doing that. But don't be that person who says, "How can I become a monk?" when you're not even a Buddhist or a meditator. How do I become a
I
monk?
recently,
Yeah, go ahead, yeah.
there are some wonderful Slice, I think is the production, Slice documentaries on YouTube that talks about the Tibetan lamas, and some of the monasteries in Tibet are run by entirely women nuns. So I would recommend to anyone to watch those ones if you want to see some firsthand experience of the nuns of Tibet, which there are plenty of.
So Nathaniel said, my long distance girlfriend wants me to text her every time I leave the house. I feel trapped having to text her every time I leave. Am I being unreasonable? Don't be too serious. Go freely. Long distance relationship is about generosity. It's about mutual respect. And it's about recognizing what the boundaries are. You're not having an argument with the 500 kilometers that separate you. You're not having an argument with the state lines that separate you, or the ocean that separates you. You're not having an argument with the lack of high speed rail between you and your partner. So why do you need to have an argument when you set a boundary? You said, hey, look, I'm not comfortable with that. That's not something I'm going to be able to do. And I need you to respect that. Why do you need to argue with that? It also is just a natural thing, a natural state of your mind that you're sharing with your partner. Don't argue with nature. Recognize it and be comfortable with it. Be open to nature. Yeah, you can get meditation sickness, especially if you're not practicing wisdom-informed meditation. And you can also get meditation sickness if you're practicing meditation without a foundation of virtue. Now, these sicknesses can be ameliorated or dealt with when you're practicing within a community so that these sicknesses come up, but then you can deal with them skillfully. And I don't know what Kundalini is. I know what doing good deeds is. I know what mindfulness, to be here in the present moment, to be aware is. I know what detachment is, the willingness to give up what I'm stuck in, what I'm trapped by. So, before we wrap up, everybody, I'd like to give some final recommendations. I'd like to share the names of a few teachers: Thich Nhat Hanh, Ajahn Brahm, Sharon Salzberg, Gabor Mate, and I'd like to share an app recommendation as well on the Plum Village app. You can get on your smartphone, Apple or iOS, the Plum Village app, and you can explore that as a part of your spiritual practice. I want to offer my deep thanks to Yam for hosting this event. It was really successful. It was really a treat. I have some responsibilities now at the temple where I met. We'll have lunch. Lunch will be offered soon. And, in closing, if anyone wants to connect with me further, to know about me or the organization that I'm a part of, you can go to www.monklife.one, monklife.one. Okay?
Thank you so much for coming again. An absolute treat to have you once more. I'll make sure to leave all of your links in the relevant places on my Discord. I think I've already linked your Discord in my Yams Hub channel for all of us in the Discord server if you want to see that there.
Okay. Thank you, brother. Take care.
Thank you, Bhante. Take
Bye.
care.
And everybody who's watching on YouTube, please leave a like, and you can get the link to the website in the description of this video.